What up, what up, what up? This is Trevor, host of The Formula, ready to bring you part 2 of the Steve Shriver interview. In this part, we're going to be discussing Steve's advice for those looking to get started on their first startup, as well as advice for anyone along the entrepreneurial path. Really appreciate Steve taking the time to sit down with me and chat. I always enjoy hearing his point of view and his experiences, so I hope you got a little bit of something from it too. Now, without me rambling on anymore, let's hear a quick word from our sponsors and get this show on the road. The Formula Podcast wouldn't be possible without some pretty awesome sponsors that are willing to support the show. So the first sponsor has been with us for quite some time. That's Lady Boss. They provide women's workouts and health supplements to help women live healthier lives. Now, if you're interested in checking out any of their workouts or their supplements, go ahead and head to theformulapodcast.com and check out our sponsored products page. Now, our second sponsor just got started with us here recently. That's Liquid Web. Now, if you've listened to any of our episodes with like Adrian or Ketsu or anybody that's doing any type of drop shipping or e-commerce, Liquid Web has some e-commerce solutions to help you get a store up and running ASAP. And they were willing to actually give 33% off to people who listen to the Formula Podcast. So when you go to liquidweb.com and check out their products, make sure and type in Formula 33 when you check out to get 33% off. Big thanks to them for hooking us up and keeping this show rolling. That's all from our sponsors. Now, let's do this thing.
So we talked a bit about this earlier as far as community and entrepreneurship and all that stuff. And I know personally you get asked a lot. I'm sure I asked you at some point in time for business advice. What do you tell the young startup guys or people who want to be business owners? What advice do you give them?
It's different every day.
Yeah.
It just depends on what my mood is. A lot of times, for one, I'm like, just do it, do something, go try it. Because the reason that I can be successful with this business and my others now is because I've had some that weren't so successful, and I've learned from my mistakes. So like, just go try something. Start something really small and just learn how it all works. And you'll either like it or you won't, or it'll work or it won't.
Yeah.
So that's number one. The other thing that I was going to speak one day to a group, and Andrea, my wife, asked me. She was like, I said, well, what should the theme be today? Because I never want to say the same thing twice. Like, I never want to go present and just say the same thing twice. And so she's like, I was like, I could talk about, my 6 keys to success, or I could talk about sustainability, or I could,
You have 6 keys to success?
I did. I used to, it was, that was from the 1900s.
Yeah.
And then she's like, why don't you tell them the truth? Why don't you tell them that you much of your adult life you didn't have any money because of your entrepreneurial endeavors, that you you've had to fire people and let them go because your company was failing, or that you ended up in the hospital for stress-related illnesses when you thought you were having a heart attack. Or sometimes you can't sleep at night, or you come home and stare at the ceiling and alienate your family because of your business.
Very motivational talk.
What I appreciate about that is it is the reality of an entrepreneur. Yeah. It is the reality. It's like, this is not glitz and glamour. Yeah. This is very real. At the end of the day, if we can't pay our bills, it comes back on me. So I hold on to that, and it has negatively impacted my family life. A lot of times I've not been there for my kids because I've been working. I was on my laptop while my wife was up until the time when I caught the baby, there's a picture of me and I'm getting as much work done up until the time I had to go catch the baby.
That's crazy.
there were a few years where I was so entrenched in the business that I just wasn't even paying attention to Andrea, and that took a toll on our marriage. You know, like there's parts of this that are just not great. And I've convinced myself that, you know, as long as I have successful businesses and I'm making enough money, then I can have that happy family and all that. And without the business and the money, I can't have the happy family. And it's not the right way to think at all.
Yeah.
So she's 100% right in that way, that I should have a strong family and that should help ripple into the business. But
yeah,
for so many years, I looked at it the other way.
Yeah, and your thought has changed on that recently?
It has. I'm not convinced I don't think I'm working any less or differently, but I'm aware that I steer towards the side of work, and I need to remind myself often that my family is there always for me, and I need to be there with them and for them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably a lesson. It seems like it's a lesson a lot of business people have to learn or do learn many times throughout their lives. So, yeah. Would you encourage them to do this?
Yes. I think I generally do steer towards encouraging people to do it. But I don't try to convince people to do it.
Yeah.
Because I have spoken with people and to people that, you know, they're on the fence, and like for a couple of years they've wanted to do it, and it's like, if you're not naturally driven to take that leap, then maybe this isn't for you. Because I've seen some pretty negative outcomes from entrepreneurs, you know, like you put it all on the line and you lose it all. And that's terrible. And I've looked at some, and I'm like, I'm not sure they're going to win. I'm not sure they're going to succeed.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be the guy that's going to tell them that either.
Yeah.
So in that regard, I appreciate somebody going through those motions and testing out their concept. But I definitely don't ever want to be responsible for convincing somebody to go.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Cash in your 401k.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine when you get an idea or something kind of comes up, you're like, okay, let's do it. And then you just get started on it. But if it sits there for too long, you're probably like, all right, well, whatever. And you get kind of pulled to something else. And maybe that's a sign of whether you should actually be doing it or not.
Great example. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because I get ideas all the time. And I also get proposed ideas. I mean, people pitch ideas all the time to me. And I like to just, right now I have 4 entities that I'm involved with on a regular basis. And so I always like to entertain. I don't want to I want to have the option to decline, or I want to be able to prove it wrong. So a lot of times I'll get a concept and I'll build the concept out as close to being a minimum viable product as possible. And if we can get it to that point, then it's like, okay, wow, we're here, so now we can test it.
Yeah.
And if we can't, I try to, and this could be a month-long process or a year-long process or a multi-year. I'm in the middle of one right now, it's multi-year. And I'm always looking for opportunities to prove the concept wrong. Like, give me a reason why not to take it to the next step.
Yeah.
And so I thrive on that. Like, I keep moving forward, but real cautiously. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
And I just like, okay, let's take this step. And then it's like, oh, okay, we still have a green light. So let's go to the next light. And then until it's just red light after red light after red light. And then it's like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Glad we tried it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's being willing to even put the effort in and then willing to walk away when you hit the red lights. Because, I think about in my like the first business I started, it was just like red light. I'm like, now we're going. And then it was like another and another and another. And we just like kept going. And then it was like, oh shit.
Right.
We're out of money. Like,
yeah.
Maybe we should have stopped at the first one. But I think that comes from experience too, where...
Yeah. And what your appetite for risk is and how much money you have at that point to put in.
Or how young you are and how willing you are to risk most of your money.
Yep.
Yeah. I probably won't do that again, but at least at that level.
Yep.
So I kind of asked you this when we were chatting earlier, but if you think about the Steve that was working at McDonald's, right? And if you had to go back and talk to that, how old were you, 16, 17? If you had to talk to that guy, what advice would you give him?
I think I would say take more time off. That's me, like today.
Yeah.
I mean, when I sold Raining Rose, 30 years old, money in the bank, and day one after I was done at that company, I was 24/7 Eco-Lips. That was a window of time where I could have taken a week, a month, a year, like 3 months, whatever, and I could have had a nice, little vacation, done some nice travel. I've been able to squeeze in a lot of travel in my work, so I'm kind of like, well, I'll get to that when I want to do that, but right now I want to do this. But I can't get that back. And so I try to operate with no regrets. And so like my only regret that comes to mind is that I didn't take a little bit of time off.
Yeah.
Because it would have been great for my life, would have been great for my family, it would have been probably great for my business, and I just dove right in.
Yeah.
So, Steve, 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take a little time off.
Yeah, take time for yourself, it sounds like.
And especially when those opportunities arise. Like when you have money, spend it. Don't always save it either. I mean, I didn't know that right off the bat, but it's like, if you don't spend, this is probably, people watch this and think it's terrible advice, but it's like, if you don't spend it when you have it, you're not going to spend it when you don't. So if you don't spend it when times are good, and I appreciate saving and investing and growing and building wealth, and I appreciate all that.
Yeah.
But when times are tough, that's when you should batten down the hatches and at least just have a little fun when cash is flowing.
Yeah. Yeah, enjoy yourself a little bit.
Yeah, because otherwise, what's the point?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's like your one of your 6 pillars of
That's right. Success. Yeah.
Spend all of your money when you have it.
Yes. Yes.
And then back off when you don't.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there anything you try to do on a daily basis to to feel like you give yourself like a win for the day, or keep the momentum moving forward?
Just kick ass in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to accomplish things,
Yeah.
I don't have a routine like that. I don't have a routine where I'm, I get this checklist or this one thing I'm gonna do, but I will say that I add things to my to-do list every single day. And I make those things up. They don't get thrown at me. Like, of course I get stuff thrown at me and I'll get those things done too.
Yeah.
But I work off lists, and I add things to my list every day. And typically with each business, and just like, each one of those is a step forward.
Yeah. So I think that covers most of the whole interview and conversation. Cool. Last message that you'd like to leave the audience with, anybody that's listening to this?
That's a great question. That we are living in a society of fear and self-doubt. We are taught to be scared of things. We're taught not to trust our instincts and to doubt ourselves. And we're teaching society to teach that to our kids. And, I look at risk, like you talk about business risks, one of the reasons I like rock climbing and mountaineering so much is it puts me into like real life-threatening situations. Like, that's real risk. All of this is just psychological risk. This is just numbers, that like most people won't die from a failed business,
Right. Right.
But you can die from a lot of other things. So is this really risky? but we are convinced by our parents and our, spouses and our bankers and accountants that this is the biggest risk that we could take, that starting a business and doing this. No, man, buying your house might be more risky than starting a business. I mean, you don't really know, but that even being said, like, is it really even that risky? Don't get caught up with fear and self-doubt. Like, trust yourself, trust your instincts, and believe in yourself, and just go do good work.
Just give it a shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Don't live in a world of fear. Pursue what you want, whether it's business or, art, anything really.
Yeah.
Just get out there and do it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, man. Well,
Cool.
Thanks for chatting today. It's been awesome.
Right. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap for this show. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Trevor Carlson, and I appreciate you taking the time to stop by, and whether it's viewing our episodes or listening to our podcast or reading our blog posts, all of you guys really help keep this show going. So I much appreciate your time and attention, and hopefully we provided a little bit of value for you. Now, if you're interested and you think you might enjoy getting some blog posts, emails, other podcasts, guides, any of that sort of thing sent to your inbox every week, go ahead and head over to theformulapodcast.com and sign up for our email list today. That's a wrap for this week's show. Thanks again, everyone, for stopping by, and I look forward to you tuning in next time.